What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So today is Monday, June 2nd, and we are continuing our discussion around routines this week. So yesterday we talked about 10 routines to implement for your child, and today we are going to talk about 10 routines that you can implement to help you to have a healthy relationship with your significant other. So let's get started. We're going to start off with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day and for bringing us here together in Christian community. I pray for everyone watching this video today that you will speak through me and everyone listening will hear a word from you today and not from me, and be blessed. In Jesus' name, amen. So today's Bible verse comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 5, and it reads, "Do not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control." So, when we are looking at relationship with our spouse, we want to make sure that we are not neglecting quality time with them. Even if we have disagreements, we're not using our body to punish our spouse. We're not using sex as a weapon for our husband or for our wife. Or if you have a relationship with a boyfriend and you guys are courting, getting ready to, looking forward to getting married soon, this one might not apply to you, but we still want to make sure that we are being kind and loving to the person that we're courting. So just because we're upset, it doesn't mean that we are cold. We can still keep that relationship healthy. We want to make sure that we are not punishing our partner by withholding love. And this is so much more than just physical intimacy. These can be the words, "I love you," not hugging them, not looking them in the eye, avoiding conversation because we're angry. More often than not, that ends up pushing people away. So that was just a side note that I wanted to share with you guys that was attached to the verse of the day for 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 5, to not withhold affection from your spouse. And with that, let's talk about 10 routines to implement into your relationship so that it can be a healthy one. Let's go. Routine number 1 is daily check-in. So this is where you're going to want to spend around at least 10 to 15 minutes each day checking in with your significant other. So that's more than a "Hi, how are you? I love you. Did you pick up the kids? Let me talk to the kids." Actually taking the time to have a face-to-face or one-on-one time with your partner without any distractions, where you can focus in on them and listen to what they have to say. So when we're talking about that, turning that into a routine, we need to make sure that that time is on the calendar. We need to make sure that we have created a space for that as well. So if that's in the car, on your way to work, after you've dropped the kids off at school, for me and my husband, I know that's during my lunch break. We will talk and catch up with each other. One of us will call the other and we will check in to see how the other person's day is going. And it really goes a long way, because sometimes we can have issues that come up throughout the course of our relationship, and it can be easy to sweep those under the rug and act like everything's fine. But if we are deliberate about making it a routine to have meaningful conversation with our spouse every day, a couple of times a day, it will keep some of those disagreements from festering. It will keep them from growing into larger issues, because we're taking the time out to talk about them and maintain the relationship, because we're taking the time out to talk about them. So, daily check-ins. How are you? How was your day? What's on your mind? And listening. That brings us to routine number 2. Routine number 2 is regular quality time, and this needs to happen every week, where you're spending half an hour, 3 hours maybe, at hopefully 3 hours a couple of times a month where you can have a date night with your spouse. This does not have to be an extravagant date night. I know sometimes people tell me that they don't have time to date their spouse, but even going for a walk for half an hour or 20 minutes can go a long way in terms of strengthening the bond that you have with the other person. What we want to avoid, and it's an easy trap to get caught up in when we have children, is that our lives start to revolve around the kids. So you and your husband or you and your wife spend so much time worrying about the kids and making sure that they're okay, that you're not focusing at all on your relationship with each other. So then you look up and 10, 15, 20 years down the road, when your children move out of the house, you no longer know your spouse because you haven't taken the time to make sure that having a date night with them is a priority. We want to continually date our spouse. So, and we all tend to grow and change over time. So to cherish the opportunity to get to know your spouse in different ways, and sometimes that might mean doing something with your spouse that you've never done before. Maybe paintballing or doing a cooking class together, going fishing, camping. Maybe your spouse doesn't like camping, so you might want to try glamping or sip and paint. You can get creative with it or go online and find a whole host of activities that maybe you've never done before that you can do with your spouse that will allow you to get to know each other in a different way, in a deeper way. That brings us to routine. So that's routine number 2 is quality time with date nights. That brings us to routine number 3. Routine number 3 is to express appreciation often. I know something that I hear every now and then is my partner already knows that I appreciate them, or I thought my partner knew how much I loved them or how much they meant to me. So we forget to say it out loud to remind you that your partner needs to hear it out loud. And we say I love you to each other in so many ways, not just saying the words I love you, but also through our actions and through showing appreciation. This is another way to say that you value the other person in the relationship, that the contribution that they have in the relationship is seen by you, that you see them, that their participation in this relationship is meaningful to you. So how do we say I love you with, more than just the 3 words I love you? It can be thank you for doing the dishes, for taking out the trash, for holding the door open for me. If your partner, my husband, regularly holds the door open for me, if we're going out on date nights, and I always tell him thank you. It's not just something that I expect. Like, even if I do, I've come to expect that he will hold the door open for me, or if he asks me out for dinner, that he will pay for it. But I still say thank you to let him know he's appreciated. So we want to make sure that our partners know that we're not taking them for granted by showing appreciation. And that also encourages them to continue to do more things that are going to make you feel that way. Because chances are they're showing you that affection, not just to get a thank you from you, but because they care about you and they want you to feel it. So a good way to reciprocate that is just by saying thank you, by showing appreciation. That brings us to routine number 4 is physical affection. So even if this is a woman looking at showing physical affection to your husband, or regardless of whether or not you're the male or the female in the relationship, it's important to show physical affection towards your spouse. So that's hugging, kissing, hand holding, and sex. Just like we read here in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 5, to not withhold that intimate relationship from your husband, from your wife. because it's an essential part of the relationship. It's like watering a plant. We don't want to starve our partner. We don't want to starve the relationship. And sometimes having a routine of gentle touches throughout the day can help facilitate healthy, transition into the bedroom later on. So you walk by your spouse and you touch their back, or you hold their hand when you're going for a walk, you give them a back rub, a kiss on the cheek. It can go a long way, especially if that's something that you don't do regularly, to encourage you to make physical touch a part of your routine. Because if your partner feels like something is missing from the relationship and you just thinking, I'm not a touchy-feely person, to maybe take some time to sit with yourself and talk with God and try to unpack that. Because if you want to have a healthy relationship with your spouse and your children, physical touch is a love language that shouldn't be ignored. Because if you don't have a healthy physical relationship with your partner and with your children that includes physical touch, it can result in an unhealthy relationship, can result in the family having an unhealthy relationship dynamic. And then when your children get older and they go off to have their relationships with their spouse, how are they going to know how to love them properly? Or you'll find young women who don't have a loving, affectionate relationship with their mother seeking loving, affectionate relationship from other women because they're starving. They're starving from having a healthy physical relationship with that parent. We don't want our children to be looking for love in all the wrong places, so to speak. So if we can model a healthy relationship with God by having a healthy relationship with God, and we can love ourselves properly, it'll be easier to show affection to the people that we love, and easy for them to love themselves properly, so they're not seeking affection from someone other than God, other than a healthy relationship with God, other than a healthy relationship with you, because that need is not being met. So that's physical affection, which is routine number 4. That brings us to routine number 5, which is going to bed together. I know this is not a possibility for everyone. Sometimes we have opposite work schedules. I know my husband and I had opposite work schedules for a long time. But at the very least, if you can't go to bed together, you can take a nap in the evening, whoever is going to bed earlier, so that when your partner gets home, you can have some quality time together as you wind down for the evening. So sometimes what our evening routine looks like, if we can't go to bed together, we will come home, he can have his coffee and I can have my tea, we can cuddle and talk about our day. So this is one of the benefits of going to bed together at the same time, is when you're unwinding at the end of the day, you can decompress together. So that is tip number 5, having a bedtime routine that involves going to bed with your spouse. Routine number 6 is to practice active listening, and this definitely needs to be a routine, because when we're listening to our spouse, we want to get in the habit of setting up a routine that allows us to actively listen to our spouse without interruption. So that means maybe we're sitting down, maybe we're going for a walk together, the kids are down for bed, we are not going for a walk, maybe we're not going for a walk with the fur babies because that can be a distraction, and we are fully present, having a conversation with our spouse, and when it's their turn to talk, we are listening. Even if at first maybe we don't agree with their opinion or their take on a certain situation, to try to see their point of view and maybe even validate their opinion. How can you see the situation from your partner's perspective before jumping right in and giving your opinion? We want to make sure that the other person feels seen in the relationship, that they know that they are seen, heard, respected and that you're there for them, that you care about what they have to say. So part of that can be accomplished through active listening. Next, we have routine number 7, teamwork around chores. So I know maybe like in the 50s and in the 40s, maybe even in the 60s, we had a split of chores where often the woman was taking care of the home and then the husband was bringing home the bacon and working. But nowadays, often we'll have both men and women working, or even you'll have a situation where the woman's at home or the husband's at home and the other person is out working. But we still want to make sure that we are honoring our spouse by sharing the load of the chores, because even staying at home, whoever's staying at home and taking care of the home or taking care of the home and the kids, that's still a job. So we're looking at the rest of the chores that need to be completed throughout the week. Maybe that's taking the kids to soccer practice or piano recitals, volleyball, ballet, guitar, going to get the groceries, cooking the meals, mowing the lawn, doing the dishes, that we are dividing those chores up equally. And sometimes we might want to swap the chores out because maybe you don't like doing dishes all the time, or maybe there are some chores that you enjoy that your partner doesn't. But we want to make sure that we're having those conversations and that we can keep the chores balanced so that we don't build resentment because someone feels like they're being taken advantage of or they're not being appreciated because we're not helping out. We're not making sure that we are participating and, that we're doing our part to participate in the relationship without leaving the bulk of that to the other person. That brings us to tip number 8. Tip number 8 is to have fun. Have you ever had your partner tell you that you take things too seriously or to lighten up? Well, this might be a phrase you could commonly hear from a narcissist. Sometimes it's true. If we're talking about being able to take a joke when someone isn't making fun of you or trying to insult your intelligence or your appearance, but being able to laugh at yourself from time to time, being able to not take life so seriously, it's important in a healthy relationship, and to make an attempt to understand your partner's sense of humor. I know in the beginning of our relationship, my husband would make jokes often that I didn't quite find all of his jokes very funny, but then he would tell the joke and then he would be laughing so hard that I couldn't help but laugh myself because I enjoyed watching him smile. And then after a while, his sense of humor started to grow on me. And it's strange, I don't know if this is helpful to anyone else, but I tend to be a very analytical person. So sometimes he would make a joke and then I would think about why it was funny. Like, what about the joke made him laugh? And that once I understood that pattern better, then I could come up with my own jokes that I knew he would likely find funny and entertaining. And it became such a unique treasure in the relationship where we could enjoy humor together, where I could share in my husband's sense of humor, and not taking everything so seriously helped a lot with that. That brings us to our next routine, number 9. Routine number 9 is to support each other's growth. What are your partner's goals? Do you know what their goals are? What are their interests, their hobbies, areas, what they like to grow in? And maybe you don't know the answer to this question because your partner doesn't know themselves. This isn't something that you've taken the time to talk about before, but now that you've watched this video, hopefully you can take the time to have that conversation with your partner and then make sure that they know that you're in their corner for whatever is coming next, in terms of helping them to achieve their goals. It's important. This can help form a stronger bond with you and your significant other when they know that whatever hesitancy they might have around going after their dreams and their goals, that they don't have to do it alone, that you're in their corner and that you're not judging them for it, that you believe in them, that you have confidence and faith that they can do the thing. It's easy to set up a routine where our partner knows that we have confidence in their capabilities by showing appreciation when they do things for us, and then when they do something well, to tell them, that they did something well. I think we're all still big children at heart, and we're still children of God, and God validates us, and we want to remember to validate each other, right? Not just our children, but ourselves and our spouse. When they do something well, when they have something new or a goal that they're trying to accomplish, that we believe they can get there, and that we're in their corner to help them get there. As like not just a cheerleader, but maybe a personal assistant from time to time, that you have each other's back. So that's routine number 9, is supporting each other as you create your goals, as you work to achieve your goals together, personal growth and development. And that brings us to our 10th and final routine. Routine number 10 is to set healthy boundaries together. So I know couples who are new to relationships, and sometimes we think of all these boundaries that we need to implement after the fact. And then sometimes, maybe you're dating and you're like, yeah, I need to come up with some healthy boundaries for a relationship. Or maybe you're married and you found that as you grow, your personality and your needs change and evolve over time. And so do your boundaries. Some things that were okay in the beginning of the relationship are no longer okay. And some things that weren't okay maybe don't bug you so much anymore. Like, it's okay if your husband leaves the cap off the toothpaste. It's okay if your wife leaves the toilet seat up. It's no longer a deal breaker for you. Or maybe in the middle of you having your you time, or maybe in the middle of you having your time with your spouse and your time with your kids, you need some time to yourself, and set a boundary around that so that both you and your partner have time to decompress by yourselves. That's important too, to make sure that you have time with just you and God, and time by yourself, just doing something that you enjoy that helps you to relax. So if we can take turns watching the kiddos or taking care of the dogs, so that the husband can have 20 minutes or an hour to himself at least once every week, to have a full hour or two to himself, or at least once every day to have 20 minutes to himself. And the same for the wife, that she can have time to herself to decompress. So then when we come back to our families and it's time to spend intimate time, quality time with your spouse, you can do that without resentment. You can do that and feel rejuvenated and have the energy to do it with a good attitude. So that is our final tip. So that's routine number 10, is to set up healthy boundaries. So I'll give you guys some ideas for boundaries if this is something that you've never thought of before, or if you already have boundaries and I happen to not mention something, please feel free to add boundaries in the comments below. Anything that would benefit someone else in their personal growth and development journey in their relationship with their spouse, that would be great. But some of the boundaries that we have are to try to not go to bed angry when we are having a disagreement. We keep yelling to a minimum. There is no screaming, no shoving, no calling each other out of their name. I think I mentioned before too, don't go to bed angry, but that's an important one. If you are really upset, it's okay to walk away and to take a walk. If you're feeling upset, It's okay to take a minute and go for a walk instead of lashing out at your partner when you're upset. Another boundary might be to never use the D word. We do not talk about divorce. Cheating, no lying, no stealing. If we do break one of these rules, one of these boundaries, we will come to the other person in the relationship and confess, this is what happened. I want us to work through this together. So at the end of the day, no matter what happens, you know that you can trust your partner because you can have an honest and open relationship with them. So we're setting up boundaries, and then we are honoring and respecting those boundaries in the relationship. I love you guys. It's never going to be perfect, but if we take the time to plan ahead and we prioritize our relationship with God, so then when we have a relationship with our spouse and they show up in a way that doesn't meet our expectations, we can filter that through the lens of God's word and God's grace, and they can do the same for us. I love you guys so much. I hope this video was a blessing to someone today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, guys.